Welcome back to Plots and Reviews. It's Bree, and today is episode 2 of Midweek and Me. And so here we are with some fresh takes on what I've recently read, what I'm reading, what I'm watching, and what are some of my impressions and opinions on all of these things. I'll try to keep this brief and juicy, but if it goes on, feel free to skip. That being said, so this week we are discussing some TV shows I'm watching, and we're going to go over their plots. I want to discuss some of my recent reads, both what I finished and what I'm currently reading, and then I'd like to introduce my favorite 6 books of the year so far. Without further ado and further blah blah blah, let's get started, and I'll start off looking at the TV shows and movies that I've been watching recently, that I've seen recently, that I haven't commented on, and that I'd like anyone else who's watching them, what are your perspectives on them? Okay, so we're discussing some TV shows and movies that I would have seen recently or that I am watching, that I have been watching. And we're going to start off with Nimona. So Nimona is a movie that's available on Netflix and elsewhere, but available on Netflix. And it basically tells the story of this girl who we find out that she's like a monster. And she is very much misunderstood. She's very free-spirited, and the city that has to deal with her, they perceive her as this ginormous threat. They perceive her as this immense danger. And it turns out that through the interactions that she has with someone who's a minority of the location, who is soon to be well renowned and well known, that they create this beautiful friendship, and they end up helping each other not only overcome the perceptions that people have about them, the wrong perceptions, but they themselves find friends, or they find a friend in each other that they can really trust and rely on. And I love that about the movie. I'd say I give it a 4.8 out of 5 because it just really spoke to me. I really enjoyed it. The next one is From. I've been watching From for a little while now. I haven't fully binged it because, you know, I have other responsibilities and things I have to do. But essentially, it's people turning up in this weird little town in the middle of nowhere in the States. And there are these strange happenings. So at night, everyone hides and they lock their windows because there are these people, zombie, monster, ghoul, vampire / demon creatures. They just got everything in the bag, and they're just like, this is what we're gonna do anyway. So those people, they actually come out and they kill humans that are just there wandering the village. But apart from that, it turns out that this location is it has other secrets that we continue finding out into season 2. And what happens is when a lot of people, okay, to begin with, people are turning up at this location from various parts of the US, right? There isn't one specific location, but you can just be driving randomly. There's a tree in the middle of your path, and then you end up in this village. And when you end up here, of course, you're seeing a bunch of weird people, and they start telling you, like, okay, get out of the vehicle, you need to hide. My main issue with this show, though, is the fact that no one seems to watch horror movies or anything related, any thrillers. Nobody reads it. Because when you show up at a strange village and people are telling you to do things, like if it's a freaky village with some freaky people and they're like, listen, don't go out at night because things are strange. Do not go out of night. Like, just listen to what's being said by the freaky villagers. It's very simple. Until you figure out what's going on yourself, just listen. Take a moment. Listen. Take a break. Listen. And I find that people just seem to want to unalive themselves, and in wanting to unalive themselves, they put other people in danger. And I don't like that. I don't appreciate that behavior. Yeah, so I haven't finished From Us yet. But there is a lot going on. They try to get out. And one of the things that I low-key love is how much the village / forest area is messing with these people, because it really is messing with these people. It's like, here, look at this, and then it's like, ha ha, you know. So yeah, I sort of like that aspect. The next show I started semi-recently was High Desert, and that's with Nnedi and Arquette. Is that her name? Her. So I like and dislike the show. I dislike it because there's so much drugs involved, like a ridiculous amount of drugs and drug use, and just people acting very dumb and very horribly on account of the drugs, and a lot of irresponsible behavior. And I hate watching shows like that. I hate watching shows where trauma is created due to that, but it's also interesting to see how some people mess up their lives so much that when they reach a point that they don't have anyone else to rely on, they need to rely on themselves, and they then try to recoup their perspectives on what they can do in life. They try to recover the image people have of them. They try to recover the negative stereotypes that are around them, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. So I think that High Desert, I don't know whether it wants to teach this or not, but I do believe that that is one of the things that you learn coming out of the show. I'm not sure I'm going to continue it though, because it's a little much for me, but it's interesting if you like that kind of thing. And finally, because being blessed is something that I claim, amen. Strange New Worlds began. Yay! Star Trek Strange New Worlds. I love Star Trek. Not so much a fan of the older misogyny that tried not to be misogyny, but still it was misogyny, and the nasty old men after the young women, like you. But I'm really enjoying what the new Star Treks have been doing, although there are a bunch of really crusty old people who aren't. But you know what? Let's move on from them. Strange New Worlds, the last three, well, these are the new 3 episodes. I believe it's like season 2. I think they've done a lot of very good work in listening to other voices and bringing that into their narratives. So I believe that a lot of their episodes are much richer, and they're actually bringing me to tears. Like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful. Which I think is supposed to be one of the goals of Star Trek, just showing the need for interactions and relations with people and beings who are different, and finding common ground and being able to achieve things. So I do believe that this new season, the new Strange New Worlds, is doing a very good job with it. That being said, can you please hurry up and give us a new season of Discovery? Please, Star Trek Discovery and Star Trek Prodigy. Please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I'm also watching some Korean dramas, but I'm not sure which one I want to talk about just yet. I finished Under the King's Umbrella. It was okay. I found that, again, the queen making certain choices, it was just dumb, and I was like, okay. But it works out in the end, and people are happy with that. I wasn't very much so I'm not discussing that. Let's see what else I come across that I may want to discuss. All right, let's get into some of the books. So my last read was actually Songs of Bone, and it's by J.R. Snyder. I really enjoyed how laid back the story was. There isn't romance. There isn't like unnecessary drama, but it's just a well-told adventure story of people who you'd want to read other stories about. And it's done in a very straightforward, somewhat simplistic language format, but the story itself, it's interesting, and the writing is good. So I enjoyed it. One of my current reads is the misarrangement of Sana Saeed. I'm enjoying it. There are aspects of it that I can identify with because of my culture, the Guyanese culture. But I don't know. I don't know if it's the writing itself, but it sort of feels a bit bumpy. And I'm hoping to wrap it up and to have a final opinion on it. But that's basically how the misadventures of Sana Saeed is going. I'm not sure what I'll give it. I don't know. It'll depend on how it goes. I'm not even halfway, but it's feeling a bit rough. It's feeling a bit rough. My other current read is actually Shadow Speaker by Nnedi Okorafor, whom I love. I love her books. I started this like recently today. So there isn't much going on, but I loved the cover, and because I know her work, I definitely wanted to read this, just like I want to read everything else that she writes, because there's always something to get from one of her books. There's always like a learning experience. There's always some form of revelation, some like, ooh, that's super interesting, that kind of thing that I really appreciate in her writing. So I've been asking 𝗏𝗏𝗏 for all of her books. So thank you, 𝗏 Books. Thank you. My upcoming book reviews. So there are 2 books I really want to review. I actually began reviewing them, but then time has passed, and I want to have I want them to be fresh when I speak about them, so I'll have to reread them. I'm not sure when I'll have some time, but I'm trying to push in some books so that I'll have time to reread them and do the review. It's a bit much, but I must review Witch King by Martha Wells and West of Jaws. Yeah, those 2. I also want to include some observations that persons would have made about the books and reply to that just based on the reading I've done. So I'm going to do that little extra bit of work to see what people would have said that I agree with, and I'm looking at persons who would have given the books like a 1 star or a 2 stars, because I think those are the most telling star numbers. So yeah, I'm excited for that. Not sure when it's gonna happen, before the end of the year. Yay. And finally, here are my top 6 favorite books of the year. The first was Heretic Royal by G.A. Aiken. Loved it. I mean, I love the whole series, so in a way, this was like an automatic sort of 4.8 to 5. Like, I knew it was going to be one of those because I love her books and I'm always laughing. I'm always enjoying everything about it. So that was a very easy 5. Yeah. The next was Lonely Castle in the Mirror by Mizuki Tsujimura. A beautiful book about friendships, about families, about bullying in schools, about the perceptions that we have about ourselves, the perceptions that others may have of us, and the need for us to understand each other and work together. I loved that book. The third book was The Little Scottish Ghost by Franz, Hohler, and Werner Maurer. Loved it. Hilarious. It's kid lit, but it's beautiful. It's absolutely beautiful. The art is beautiful. The story is about a little ghost who is not really scary, so her family sent her to like ghost training. But in sending her, she actually ends up befriending this ghost who just turns out to be lonely and helps him reconnect with the village where he was haunting. So I loved it. I thought the story was the sweetest. The Newtown Librarian by Kathy Anderson is my 4th book. And I just love how mature it is, because we have a woman who is in her 40s, I believe mid-40s, and she hasn't achieved, based on how people would see it, a lot in life. But she actually, even at that age, moves into a space where she's finally achieving what she has always wanted. And she's making peace with herself, with her decisions, with her life. And she's realizing that she's happy and content. And I love that about the book. It's such a mature, straightforward read. It's not very heavy, but you get so much from it that it's good. It's good. Naturally, I couldn't not read Witch King and, not love it. I don't know how I would not have loved Witch King. It's one of those stories that just drops you in the middle of confusion, literally in the middle of confusion. And I love that in books, especially when the author can then bring me through the story and make me understand certain things and leave me desiring of more. And Martha Wells does that beautifully in Witch King. And finally, It's Not Little Red Riding Hood by Josh Funk and Edwardian Taylor was my final favorite. Thank you so much for watching. I really don't want Midweek and Me to be overly long. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you for sitting down with me. Have an amazing week. I wish you the best of reading, watching, whatever it is that you're doing. Enjoy yourself. Take care of yourself. and see you next episode. Bye. Also, please subscribe if you enjoy what you see, and comment. Like, I'd love to know if you've read any of these. If you plan on reading any of them, let's have a conversation. Bye-bye.